Since I last did a pickups video, and as a result I've now got quite a large pile of things to show you. So without any more messing about, let's get on with it. This will be a two-part video. So to start with, I've just got the one Nintendo 3DS game recently, which is Dragon Quest VII Fragments of the Forgotten Past. I've been waiting for this to come out in English for years because the Japanese release has been out for a long time. I have got Dragon Warrior 7 on the PS1 and I always intended to get through it, but when this was announced I decided to wait for this version instead because it's got much improved pacing and gameplay, and the graphics have had a complete overhaul as well, of course, and it's got a new translation. So I would say this is the definitive version of Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior 7. And it's definitely a must-buy for those who've enjoyed games in the series before. So, moving on. We've got a couple of PSP games. The first one is Secret Agent Clank, which I haven't tried yet, but I've always meant to pick up the PSP entries in the Ratchet and Clank series, so there's that one, and of course there's the other one, Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, which is still ship-wrapped at the moment. This is a PSP Essentials version, but that doesn't bother me too much. On to Wii U stuff next. Tokyo Mirage Sessions -FE, which of course is the crossover between Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. I haven't completed this game yet. I've put over 20 hours into it and really loved every minute that I've spent with it so far, so I shall be getting back to it and finishing it soon. It feels like Persona 4 in quite a lot of ways. It's nowhere near as good as Persona 4 in my opinion, but it's still worth playing and worth picking up for the rather RPG-starved Wii U. Next on the Wii U is a fairly recent release, which is the SteamWorld Collection. Nintendo have just started putting out some of their eShop games on physical disc, which I prefer to have over digital downloads. And one of the first releases is this collection, which includes SteamWorld Dig, which is quite old now, and the more recent SteamWorld Heist along with its DLC. It's £20 at the most, although if you shop around you can find it less than that online, so well worth adding to your Wii U collection. And the other release in the Nintendo eShop collection at the moment is Fast Racing Neo, which also comes with its DLC, which has only just been released, I think, so that's a very solid package. If you're looking for a Wipeout or a F-Zero style game to play on your Wii U, then this is the one to go for. One game for the original Wii now, which is Excitebots Trick Racing. I always wanted to play this game, but as I had no means to run it, I never got around to it, but I finally got around to soft modding my Wii, so I can finally play it now, and it's fantastic. Now onto a pile of Xbox 360 games. The first one is Blur, which I owned back when it was released, but my copy got scratched, so it's been a few years since I've been able to play it, but I finally got around to replacing my copy and yeah, it's a really good sort of Mario Kart style racer, except we're using realistic locations and cars. There's not so many people playing it online anymore, unfortunately, which is the best way to play it, but the single player is still fairly good fun, if quite harsh in difficulty. I think I shall be doing a video about this as part of the last regen series fairly soon, so keep an eye out for that one. Next we have Too Human, which is a game that for some reason completely passed me by. I know there was a lot of hype and controversy over this game because Dennis Dyack kind of promised an epic trilogy, and then due to a lawsuit with Epic Games over the use of the Unreal Engine, it never got past the first entry, and indeed they were forced to remove all copies from store shelves. I've played an hour or two, basically up until you fight Grendel, and I've really enjoyed it so far, so I shall be carrying on with playing that in the future. Next we have one that I haven't put in yet, which is Prey. The recent talk over Prey 2, and watching the guys from Giant Bomb play this a little bit on a Unprofessional Fridays video a little while ago, inspired me to pick this up. It was only £1, so can't really go wrong with that. Next we have Burnout Paradise The Ultimate Box. I was a little bit disappointed to find out that this doesn't come with all the DLC, because for something that has Ultimate in the title, you'd expect it to pretty much be the definitive version of the game, but it doesn't include Big Surf Island, and there's a couple of other bits of DLC that aren't included either, so I'm not terribly impressed with the branding of that one. But Burnout Paradise is still a fantastic game regardless. The final Xbox 360 game for now is Syndicate, which was developed by Starbreeze Studios, and of course is based on the old Bullfrog game. It's shifted from an overhead sort of squad-based tactical game to a first-person shooter, and it is a very good game, highly polished, and yeah, I shall be getting into that one fairly soon as well. Now we have a stack of PS2 games, most of which will feature in a season of PS2 Tuesdays. So first we have Street Fighter Alpha Anthology. This has 5 games, well, technically 4. Street Fighter Alpha, Alpha 2, Alpha 2 Gold, which is the same thing but with a few extra characters and redesigned a little bit, Alpha 3, and Super Gem Fighters. It's a very solid compilation. Alpha 2 Gold and Alpha 3 in particular are the standout games in this collection. I think I paid about 15 quid for it, so I don't feel ripped off in that regard. Another game which was only £1, I think, is R Racing. This is a weird spin-off from the Ridge Racer series, where they decided to make a much more realistic game. It's the same team as I understand it, but they've just had a go at sort of, well, it's not quite Gran Turismo by any means. It's nowhere near as good for a start, and not nearly as realistic, but it's their attempt at something a bit more serious. I actually quite enjoyed it back in the day. I haven't played it too much since I've reacquired it, but that's another one to look at. Next we have Soul Calibur 3. For some reason, well, I was in a mood for fighting games after picking up Street Fighter Anthology, so I decided to get a couple of Soul Calibur games, starting with number 3, because I've never really played it before, It's nowhere near as good as 1 or 2, but still fairly good fun. Next, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 3, Night of the Quincan. Last year I played through and completed the original Ty the Tasmanian Tiger as part of the Backlog Challenge. And I've also got Ty 2, so I just needed 3 to complete the trilogy, which I've now got. It wasn't that cheap, as I had to import it from America, but I do intend to cover the other 2 games now that I've got all 3. And finally on the PS2, Magna Carta. I've got Magna Carta 2 on the Xbox 360 and I quite liked it, so that was the impetus to track down the original game. I still haven't put it in yet and tried it, but it does look like a very good Korean RPG for the system. Can never have too many RPGs if you ask me, so I'll be giving that a go. And then finally I have a small pile of PS3 titles, starting with Split Second. This game came out on the exact same day as Blur, and if you ask me, they're both very solid arcadey racing games. Blur more in the multiplayer online mode, and Split Second more in single player. This will also get some coverage from me pretty soon. Well worth playing that one. After that we have another Soul Calibur game, number 4. I don't think this is as good as 3 from what I've seen. I think this is the one that features Darth Vader or Yoda if you've got the Xbox version. £4, not bad. And finally, Trails of Cold Steel 2. I haven't touched this yet because I've yet to finish Trails of Cold Steel Part 1, but I am really looking forward to eventually playing this. I've kind of been alternating between the original Trails of Cold Steel and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, playing a chapter of each, so that's why it's taken me a while to finish both. But I shall be focusing on completing both of those, and then after a little break I shall get on to Trails of Cold Steel 2. So that's it for part 1. Part 2, which will be up in a couple of days, will focus on recent Xbox One and PlayStation 4 acquisitions. So that'll be up very soon. In the meantime, take care.